Okay, this is review of Great Debate G Plus and blog post number 2. Going to go straight into my newsfeed and see. I've done a little bit of pre-editing before opening this, so I know there's at least a couple of posts that are of interest to me, and we're going to go straight into that, so as not to waste any time. So let's go on there. Just some new posts been put in. Okay, so as usual, just so people know what's going on, what I'm going to do is review the best or more interesting to me Google Plus posts, blog posts related to the Great Debate, and raise those subjects, give my thoughts on them, and see if it stimulates any further discussion or learning points or things like that. So we're going to go straight in. The first thing that I have that I reposted from, it was posted on my own community, Theism versus Atheism discussion group, but it's an update, something I had forgot about, the debate between Dr. Robert Price and Bart Ehrman. Did Jesus exist? I just noticed there actually that it's interesting where whoever produced this, it's Mythicism Milwaukee, that they refer to Dr. Robert Price, but just Bart D. Ehrman. Pretty sure Bart Ehrman's got a PhD, and should probably be referred to along with Price as Doctor in some sense. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but that would be interesting if anyone can comment on that. I think it should be Dr. Robert Price and Dr. Bart Ehrman debate, but that's concluded. It was yesterday, the 21st of October 2016, so no doubt that'll take a bit of time to filter through onto the YouTube and other places. I think I've seen somewhere where you can purchase access to it for $10 or something like that, but not too sure about the details there. But that'll be an interesting debate to listen to analyze, to go over. A long anticipated debate between two non-theists and debating the existence of Jesus. Be fascinating. That's one to definitely be looking out for. So I've got that on my profile page. If you don't know about it and you want to see any information about that, well, just Google it, I suppose. So that's the first interesting post on my Google Plus feed today. And the second one, and this could get quite complicated and quite lengthy. It's a post by Xbox Fiend, and it's asking for an explanation. It's basically what it postulates. I'll read out what it's postulating. So if you hold that the Christian God cannot lie because it's not in his nature, God is not a liar, and that Jesus is God, as in the Trinity, then I have an honest question for you, as it's confusing to me. So, if Jesus was 100% human, then he has the ability to lie. He just might never choose to. Otherwise, he is now only 99% human. But that isn't the real issue. The real issue is that now you have a contradiction. God can lie and can't lie. And since we are talking ontology, it is in the same time and in the same way. There is probably a way around this, but I would appreciate only answers that take it that Jesus and God share the same ontology and is 100%, and that God cannot lie. So, so far there's 22 comments on that. It's an interesting thread to follow. We might look at some of those. Well, at least I know we're going to look at least a couple of them that are of interest to me. My first thought when I read that was that the resolution there was that it's not a contradiction. So the law of non-contradiction is that a thing cannot be A and not A at the same time and in the same way or respect. Now that's how Xbox has worded that there. But the problem is, though, that when you talk about, so if you talk about the hypostatic union, which is that Jesus is 100% God, 100% human, so that the divine and human natures are truly united, then what is the ontology there? You don't have, it seems to me like you could say that in one way, as God, Jesus could not lie, given his nature. But another way, in his humanity, it was possible that Jesus could lie. And that would seem to remove the contradiction, because when you're speaking about Jesus lying, you're not speaking about in the same way, you're speaking about in different ways. One, in his divinity, second, in his humanity. So it would be the same as saying that, let's say, could Jesus be could Jesus be omnipresent, everywhere present? Well, in one way, yes. In his divinity, Jesus is God, never ceases to be God. So is in that respect omnipresent, but in his humanity is limited to being at one place at one time. So I think the resolution to that lies somewhere in there, and there's not an accurate representation of the theology there to talk about Jesus 100% human and God being the same ontology, the same being. I mean, they are the same being, but there are two natures there, not one nature. I don't want to go into I think that if you're going to raise a question, I think the obvious question is whether it's coherent to talk about any being having two natures and having two natures 100%. And I think from the doctrines I studied in my earlier days, the doctrine was that we believe that in the person of Jesus, the human and divine natures are truly united, so that he is truly and properly God and truly and properly human. So that's reflective of this hypostatic union. So there would be an issue of coherence with that needs to be addressed by theologians, so that it avoids the charge of incoherence. But once you have that, then you really have to be looking at any action of Jesus with respect to whether or not you're talking about as the divine or as the human. So there are many things that Jesus could do as a human that would not be possible in the divine, like the example I gave of omnipresence. So I get the feeling that that's where the resolution lies. I'm not sure how Xbox would reply to that, because he says he would appreciate only answers that take it that Jesus and God share the same ontology. But I'm not too sure is that Christian theology, that two natures, is that two natures, one being? I mean, it seems to be similar to the doctrine of the Trinity. And if you grant the coherence of it, then I'm not too sure you can talk about what's possible in the divinity is possible in humanity on that respect there. But if Xbox listens to this, I'll tag him in obviously this video, and see what he has to say. But that's where I think that was my initial thoughts. That's where the resolution would be. I'm not. Let me see if I was going to go down that other route. And if Jesus was 100% human, yeah, the other point I was going to make is that when we talk about, Xbox says if Jesus was 100% human, then he has the ability to lie. But I think there's a confusion there. When we talk about the hypostatic union, we're talking about what Jesus was with respect to his nature. So what you're really saying is that Jesus was God, that was that divine nature, but biologically he was a human. And I think that there might be, I don't think that's the way Xbox using that. I think he's saying, he's not restricting that to human as in a biological nature, but he's extending that to, as biological beings, what is normal for us to do, i.e. lie. And I'm not too sure whether that's in line with the hypostatic union either, which might just be referring to the nature of a thing, regardless of what that thing, given that nature, then does. So if that was the case, then the otherwise he is now only 99% human wouldn't follow. But so that kind of, I mean, that's my kind of off the cuff thinking on it that first came to me when I read the post, which is an interesting post, but I think there's more fundamental issues. I think before you even get to whether there's a contradiction, I think the first question to be addressed there is whether it's coherent to talk about anything, any being having these two natures being in one being, because that would be, to me, that suggests two ontologies. But Xbox was trying to have one ontology, and that might be fine. But there's 22 comments on it. Let's see, maybe there's more than that. Let's have a look at some of them. Try to find out the more interesting. Michael Schofield, he makes a comment, which is slightly unrelated, I suppose. I just have no idea how one could get to the conclusion that an omnipotent being cannot lie because he told you so? Question mark. Sounds like something a liar would say. Well, but I don't think it follows that you could only get to the conclusion that God would be omnipotent because God told you he's omnipotent. I think you could possibly get to that conclusion through something like the modal ontological argument, or the ontological argument, where you have the greatest conceivable being. And if omnipotence is one of the great mating properties of that being, then that would be another way you could get that without being told that. Let's see. I'm sure there was a, yeah, so there's a couple more interactions there I'm not going to touch on. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, T.S. Mayer, he raises the point. Regarding God's inability to lie, I'm still waiting for the argument that demonstrates that lying is somehow a contradictory attribute in a being. Well, that's not difficult at all. I mean, if you have a being such that they cannot lie, then of course it's contradictory to propose that they lie. So if you have a perfectly good God and lying is not part of goodness, then you have a being that is necessarily not a liar. So I'm not too sure that on that there. And then of course he raises the issue of the hypostatic union. That for him that's one of the most damaging concepts that makes him reject the God of Christianity, and that's what I was referring to earlier. The coherence of the hypostatic union needs to be established by theologians, and I think that's a kind of prior task before you can get to what then might follow from it, which seems to be where Xbox was going. Aaron Voluntarius, he makes it's an interesting kind of post. I'm not too sure where he's coming from on that. He says this to Xbox, a couple of points on this. First, sin is not an essential part of human nature, although all humans now sin. There will come a time where humans exist and yet no longer sin. So yes, Jesus took on 100% fully human nature, but that did not entail a sin nature. So there is no contradictory ontology at play. That raised a couple of questions in my mind, like, first, sin is not an essential part of human nature. My idea of theological thinking is that we are by nature sinful. Since the fall, all human beings created or produced through natural means are naturally sinful, and that would be an essential part of our human nature. So I don't know whether, it's possible that Aaron doesn't hold to the doctrine of original sin, which might be where he's coming from, I'm not sure. But certainly it struck me that it is an essential part of our human nature. And yes, there will come a time where humans will exist but no longer sin, but that won't be whilst we're in this fleshy body. That will be when we have been resurrected and we have been changed, and the corruptible is put on incorruptible, the flesh has become spirit, etc., etc. So it won't be in our fleshy body that we no longer sin. It will be when we're in a different state. And then he says that, so yes, Jesus took on 100% fully human nature, but that did not entail a sin nature. But surely the only reason for that is because his birth was not a natural birth. So if it had been a natural birth, then that would seem to be the reason. If it had been a natural birth, then he would have, or else why have a virgin birth? If Jesus could have been born through normal sexual relations between Joseph and Mary, and so as to his humanity, he would truly and properly have been a son of David through Joseph's line and Mary's line, and that didn't entail any hereditary sinfulness in him by that, then I'm not sure I'm seeing the purpose of the virgin birth if it wasn't to avoid in some way that sinful nature. It seems to explain it, that the reason why that he wasn't born that way is then possibly to escape that. But maybe there's counter examples to that, like other examples in the Bible where there was a miraculous conception, but the thing conceived was not conceived sinless. I don't know, but it's interesting anyway. And then he goes on to another thing about the lie thing, which I'm not really going to comment on here. It's the first part there that caught my attention. And Xbox has said he's going to address that when he's awake. He takes issue with a few things, one being that sin nature is not innate human. Yeah, so he's basically saying what I was saying. Yeah, and he's repeating that there. So he says, I'll take issue with a few things, one being that sin nature is not human. As I would argue from the Christian point of view, it most certainly is, and that humans on the second earth or whatever will be human and not have a sin nature. That to me is just redefining future non-human things to be human, since the old one doesn't exist anymore. Their ontology has changed and their mind's altered. Yeah, so that's basically just kind of reiterating two of the points that I raised there in my post, and it'll be interesting to see how Aidan responds to those, and I'll tag him in this and see if he wants to respond to my own comments there, which I'll probably post anyway. You know, because I mean, I don't want people to have to listen to this in order to get a conversation. So I can do both. It's not an either or on that. But that's an interesting post, posting on G Plus by Xbox earlier on today, which I found interesting, and I think it raises some interesting questions. So far we've got two. We've got the Price-Ehrman debate concluded. Hopefully looking forward to that, producing an Xbox with the that argument there. I'm just looking to see if there's any new posts came out there. This is a problem when you're doing this kind of live. Oh, there's a seemingly controversial post going out there by Jade West. This is new, so this is brand new to me. This infuriates me. Under Antonia's video about rape and pregnancy, I pointed out that it can be daily torture for a woman who is pregnant by rape to realise that going inside of her is a product of a monster. She relives the rape over and over every day. There are women who have killed themselves because they could not abort a rapist fetus. I remember when abortion was illegal and this happened. Antonia's response in a comment, this daily torture point of yours is stupid. He is disgusting. I have no words for how little I think of him now. Okay, so obviously that's a controversial point, and obviously the discussion there's on rape and pregnancy and abortion. So my kind of view on that would be that there are occasions when you're in a situation of the lesser of two evils, where no matter what you do, some evil is going to happen. So if you take a situation where someone is raped, and as a result of that, they're impregnated, and whether or not they should be allowed to abort, then if you allow the abortion because it's been non-consensual sex forced upon the woman, then that would be an evil in itself. You are destroying a developing human life. On the other hand, if you don't allow the abortion, then you are doing exactly what Jade West has said there. At least that can be the case, where by having to carry that child within her womb, there's a daily torture for an extended period of time until the birth, at which there could be that constant reminder and reliving and feeling of disgust and horror and such like within the female, which seems to be an evil upon the woman. It seems to be an evil imposed upon the woman. So my kind of view in that situation is that if it be the case that the woman chooses to not continue with the pregnancy, because it's not always the case that that happens. There are women who have been raped who have chosen to go ahead with the pregnancy, and you know, that's their choice there. But if they choose not to, then the lesser of two evils. So I think it's a case of, yeah, okay, in that situation, then abortion would be permitted. However, I also think it's a bit of a moot point in today's society, because I would imagine with the morning after pill being available, that for any female who was raped, that as a precautionary measure, not knowing whether they are pregnant or not, they would be given the morning after pill. Now, what that means is surely that if the result of the rape was not pregnancy, nothing happens. But if it were going to be the case that conception is going to take place in pregnancy, the morning after pill would prevent that from getting off there. So I don't think it would even come to that stage. I think the morning after pill would be made available. Now, is the morning after pill the same as an active abortion? I'm not too sure, because you don't know whether or not, at least as far as I know, you don't know the day after, you don't know whether or not the person's conception is taking place. And if I'm wrong on that, someone correct me. So if you don't know whether conception is taking place, you cannot say for definite you have aborted a developing human life. That would only be the case if conception had taken place. But even if not, then I think the first recourse would be that morning after pill on that there. So I tend to agree that, you know, it's a very serious, it's a very emotive issue, and I don't think if it's the case that Jade West is accurately representing Antonia's view, I wouldn't agree with him that this daily torture point of yours is stupid. I think it's a very valid point, and I think it's something that needs to be taken seriously, and there needs to be a responsible Christian response to those kind of situations. But that just came off the cuff, just as I refreshed my browser there on my feed. So that gives us 3 interesting posts so far. We've got the Bart Ehrman Price debate. I think I'll get my own back. Dr. Bart Ehrman and Robert Price debate. We've got Xbox's post on the nature of Jesus and lying. And we've got the Jade West post here about Antonia and rape, pregnancy, and abortion. All 3 interesting posts. Let's go further down, see if we can get some more stuff. Quite a funny post, just to inject some humour into it. There's a nice post there. Picture of the devil sitting in bed reading the Bible. He's obviously at the end of the book, and he's got a little bit of a sentence coming out there. A bit harsh. It's kind of funny. What we're going to do now is we'll have a quick look at some of the blogs. It'll be the same blogs I reviewed the other day, but just to see if anything new's been posted, and also I've added a new blog. We're going to start with Evolution News. So, Tom Wolfe and the Kudzu of Settled Science. I don't know what that's about. Let's have a look. So, Evolution News is the kind of provides original reporting and analysis about the debate over intelligent design and evolution, including breaking news about scientific research. That's self-description there. But this page isn't loading. Okay. So that's not loading at all. Let's try again one more time, see if it works. I mean, the main page opens, but that article doesn't open. Well, there we go. Writing in commentary, Andrew Ferguson offers a fantastic review of Tom Wolfe's takedown of Darwin, The Kingdom of Speech. Yeah, I don't think anything interesting in that I want to really comment on, and nothing else on there. So that takes care of EVN for now. Uncommon Descent, which is another intelligent design blog. Torturing the data till it really scares people. Columbine film actually addresses Darwinism as the mass murderer's motive. Controversial. And nothing else new that I'd ever commented on in yesterday's by a Logos forum, and I've been participating kind of marginally on the Is Cancer and Evolutionary Theory thread, but no new threads on there, kind of quiet on the blogs. Dangerous ID, nothing new on there. It's the same post, same top post as yesterday. Secular Outpost, nothing new on there, but again, I highly recommend the Secular Outpost to theist and atheist, but mainly theist if you want to get your teeth into some really heavy stuff, then that's the place to be, I think. Alexander Proust's blog, nope, nothing new on there. Everything seems kind of quiet. And the one I've added, the new blog I added yesterday, was Sean Carroll's blog. So there's nothing new on it, but I think the most recent post, which was on, that's a long while ago, September the 25th. He doesn't seem to update it very often. I think he opened up some sort of Facebook, did a live video on his public Facebook page and just took questions from anyone who happened by. So that's www.preposterousuniverse.com if you want to hook up with Sean Carroll and get involved with that there. So nothing really happening on the blogs. I have started my own blog, but it's very quiet just now. I think I've got 7 posts, and all of those posts are posts which I've also made on G+. So nothing new to offer there. Okay, I think I'm just going to do one final check of the Google Plus feed. See if it's coming in new, if anything. I'll see if there's any comments somewhere, anywhere. Okay, so everything's nice and quiet from there. So I'm going to wind up the review there. Let's say, I think we got some interesting stuff there. We got the Ehrman stuff, we got the Ehrman price debates concluded. We've got the post from Xbox Fiend on the hypostatic union and the what follows from that, whether or not a contradiction follows from that. And then we had Jade West post about rape, pregnancy and abortion, which I briefly touched on, giving my views on that. If you have a blog, if you have a post, a thread, a community, anything at all you would like to be part of this review, drop me a message. I'll have a look at it if I think it's relevant. And it will be, if it's related seriously to the Great Debate, then I'll be happy to include that in review of Great Debate G+ and blog post number 3. So thanks very much for watching. Don't forget, don't comment on this just now, because I'm going to download this and edit it and then re-upload it to YouTube. So it's a much shorter video, and then delete this one here. So have a good day. Thank you, thank you, thank you.